Welcome to 15-Minute Battles, where we demolish history's biggest conflicts in just 15 minutes. We dive deep into the world's most pivotal military clashes, from the ancient battlefields of Marathon to the complex strategies of modern warfare. The leaders, who were the legendary generals and forgotten heroes commanding the troops, and finally, the outcomes. If you love history, military strategy, and learning something new quickly, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another historic clash.
Imagine a superpower so dominant, so all-conquering, that it believed the world was already its own. This was Rome in 09 CE. The mighty legions had pushed their borders deep into the wild, untamed lands of Germania. For the Roman governor, Publius Quinctilius Varus, the final pacification of these fierce tribes seemed a mere formality. He treated them not as equals, but as conquered subjects, confident in the overwhelming power of the Roman eagle. Standing by his side was a man who embodied this Roman confidence. Arminius. A prince of the Carusi tribe, Arminius was taken to Rome as a child, raised as a Roman, trained as a Roman officer, and even granted the coveted prize of Roman citizenship. To Varus, he was the perfect symbol of a civilized German, a loyal advisor who understood both worlds. But Varus saw only the surface. Beneath the Roman toga beat the heart of a German warrior, a heart that burned for his people's freedom. While he smiled and advised the governor, Arminius was secretly forging a conspiracy, uniting a dozen warring tribes under a single deadly purpose: to lure the invincible Roman army into a trap from which it would never return. As the summer of 09 CE began to fade, the stage was set. Arminius, the trusted advisor, began feeding Varus carefully crafted intelligence. He spoke of a minor rebellion brewing in a remote corner of Germania, a small fire that needed to be stamped out before it could spread. It was the perfect pretext. Other Germanic leaders, still loyal to Rome, saw the deception. They warned Varus, pleading with him not to march into the wilderness, telling him it was a trap. But Varus, blinded by arrogance and his trust in Arminius, dismissed their concerns. He saw only a simple police action, a chance to assert Roman authority one last time before winter. So he gathered his forces, 3 of Rome's most seasoned legions, the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th. These were not rookies. They were hardened veterans, the backbone of the imperial army. Along with them marched thousands of auxiliary troops, cavalry, and a long train of civilian camp followers. Varus led this massive column, nearly 25,000 people in total, away from the safety of their summer forts and directly into the dark, suffocating embrace of the Teutoburg Forest. As they marched deeper, the autumn rains began, turning the forest floor into a treacherous sea of mud and slowing their progress to a crawl. The mighty Roman army, designed for open-field battles, was stretched into a thin, vulnerable line nearly 15 kilometers long, swallowed by the endless green canopy. With the legions hopelessly entangled in the forest, Arminius knew his moment had come. Under the guise of rallying local tribes to support the Roman cause, he and his personal retinue rode away from the struggling column. But he wasn't gathering reinforcements. He was signaling the attack. Deep within the ancient woods, thousands of Germanic warriors lay in wait, hidden behind trees and in dense undergrowth. Suddenly, the eerie silence of the forest was shattered. A storm of iron-tipped spears and arrows rained down on the unsuspecting Romans from all sides. The legionaries, caught completely by surprise, struggled to react. Their greatest strengths, discipline, and formation were useless here. The dense trees and sucking mud prevented them from forming their famous shield walls or battle squares. They were fighting an invisible enemy. Warriors would strike from the shadows and melt back into the woods before the Romans could even mount a defense. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. For 2 agonizing days, the Romans fought a desperate running battle, constantly harassed, picked off one by one. They were exhausted, demoralized, and completely lost, fighting for their lives in a green hell that seemed to have no end. After 2 days of relentless chaos, the battered remnants of Varus's army stumbled into a clearing. It looked like a chance to regroup, but it was the final stage of Arminius's master plan. They had reached a narrow pass at a place we now call Culcrease. On one side, a steep, wooded hill rose sharply. On the other, a vast, impassable bog stretched to the horizon. The Romans were funneled into a natural bottleneck, a kill zone. But Arminius had not relied on nature alone. In the weeks prior, his men had secretly constructed a long earthen wall, a rampart of turf and stone hidden along the base of the hill. It was a perfectly camouflaged fortification, invisible until it was too late. As the head of the Roman column entered the pass, the trap was sprung. Thousands of Germanic warriors erupted from behind the wall, pouring over the top and crashing down onto the trapped legionaries. The Romans were now pinned between the wall of warriors, the bog, and the relentless attacks from their rear. There was no escape. Their superior armor and training meant nothing. In the tight confines of the pass, the battle devolved into a brutal, hand-to-hand melee where sheer numbers and ferocity won the day. For the Roman command, the horrifying reality set in. The battle was lost. The legions were being annihilated. Facing the ultimate disgrace of capture and the gruesome torture that would surely follow, Governor Varus and his senior officers made their final choice. They fell on their own swords, choosing a Roman death over a barbarian's victory. Without leadership, the last pockets of resistance crumbled. The remaining soldiers were overwhelmed and cut down. In the space of 3 days, 3 entire legions, the pride of the Roman army, nearly 20,000 soldiers plus their followers, were wiped from the face of the earth. In the aftermath, the victorious Germans swarmed the battlefield, claiming the ultimate prize, the sacred eagle standards, the aquila of each legion. These golden eagles were the soul of a legion, a symbol of Rome's divine authority. Their capture was a humiliation of the highest order. The shame was so profound that the numbers of the lost legions, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, were permanently struck from the Roman military rolls. They would never be raised again. When the news of the disaster finally reached the capital, a wave of shock and grief swept through Rome. The Emperor Augustus, now an old man who had spent his life building the empire, was utterly devastated. The historian Suetonius tells us that the emperor descended into a state of profound mourning. For months, he refused to cut his hair or shave his beard. He was said to wander the halls of his palace in a daze, periodically smashing his head against the walls and crying out in anguish, "Quintili Vaer, legiones retha. Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." This was more than just a military defeat. It was a psychological blow that shattered the myth of Roman invincibility. In response, Rome pulled back. The ambitious plan to conquer and Romanize all of Germania up to the Elbe River was abandoned forever. The Rhine River became the permanent fortified frontier of the Roman Empire in the north, a boundary that would define the map of Europe for the next 400 years and create a lasting cultural and linguistic divide that persists to this day. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest stands as one of the most decisive and impactful battles in all of history. It was a shocking demonstration that the Roman war machine, for all its power and sophistication, could be defeated. It proved that sheer will, clever strategy, and knowledge of the terrain could overcome even the world's greatest superpower. For Rome, it was a wound that never fully healed, a permanent scar on its imperial pride. But for the Germanic tribes, it was their defining moment of victory. Arminius, the man who had worn a Roman uniform only to betray it, was hailed as a liberator. He became a legendary figure, the unifier of the Germans, and the man who single-handedly stopped the unstoppable Roman tide. He ensured that the lands east of the Rhine would remain Germanic, shaping the destiny of Germany, and by extension, the future of Europe. It was a victory won in the mud and rain of a dark forest, a victory that echoed through centuries, reminding the world that even the mightiest empires have their limits. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into history, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories.
And that wraps up today's 15-minute battle. If you want to master more moments of military history in less time, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next 15-minute battle.